Welcome back, everyone. Today we're going deep, deep down into a topic that I think affects just about everyone. Fatigue. You know that feeling, right? When your energy just goes kaput. Well, it turns out the answers might just lie with these incredible little powerhouses in our cells, and they're called, you guessed it, mitochondria.
Mitochondria, that's right. They're often referred to as the energy factories of our cells. And, well, for good reason. These tiny structures are responsible for taking all that food we eat and converting it into, well, usable energy. This molecule called ATP. And the really amazing part, a healthy person, get this, produces an amount of ATP every single day that equals their own body weight.
Wow, that's like carrying around a whole other you made of pure energy. And to think, a single cell, just one, can have anywhere from 1,000 to 2,500 mitochondria. And if we're talking about, what, 10 trillion cells in the human body? That's an incredible amount of energy production happening inside us all the time. But how do they do it? How do these mini power plants actually make all that energy?
Well, it all starts with breaking down that food. The energy, it's kind of locked away in these chemical bonds of the food molecules, gets released, and then our body uses that to create ATP. It's a pretty complex process, all these pathways, enzymes. But the important thing is that some foods just give our bodies better fuel, let's call it, for this whole energy conversion thing.
So it's not just about calories. It's really about giving our bodies the best quality fuel. And you mentioned that some foods are better than others for this. So what are those key nutrients, the ones that really help our mitochondria thrive?
Yeah, well, there are a few superstars. The B vitamins, magnesium, manganese, selenium, vitamin C, and then this one you might have heard of, coenzyme Q10. Really interesting stuff.
Coenzyme Q10, yeah, I've heard of that. It rings a bell, something to do with statin drugs, maybe?
You got it. Statin drugs, they're often prescribed to lower cholesterol, but sometimes, and this is important, they can mess with how our bodies naturally make coenzyme Q10. And because of that, people on statins, they might experience fatigue or have muscle problems because their mitochondria aren't getting enough of that crucial coenzyme. Something to keep in mind and talk to your doctor about if you're taking statins.
Absolutely. So if you are taking statins, talk to your doctor about whether you might need to supplement with coenzyme Q10. Are there certain foods that can help us get more of it naturally?
For sure. Red meat, fish, and especially organ meats, things like liver and heart. Really good sources of coenzyme Q10. And that just goes to show how important it is to eat nutrient-rich foods for supporting energy production rather than going for processed or artificial replacements.
Speaking of replacements, I was reading about a study comparing red meat to all those plant-based alternatives. And honestly, the results surprised me. Red meat actually outperformed the plant-based options when it came to a lot of biomarkers.
That study is a good reminder that, well, food choices, they should be all about nutritional value, like real quality stuff. Choosing foods that are nutrient dense, that were grown for their, I don't know, good stuff, and not just because they taste a certain way or look a certain way. That can make a huge difference to our health.
Huge difference. So we've talked about diet. What else can we do to help our mitochondria get that energy boost? I've heard exercise is important.
It really is. Exercise, it's like the best way to increase your mitochondrial count and how well they work. It's like a workout for our cells, right? It makes them produce new mitochondria and improves how they function. Think of it as a power-up for those energy factories, more energy and healthier cells overall.
So not only is exercise good for our muscles and heart, it's like a supercharge for our cells.
Yeah.
Now, what about if we combine exercise with intermittent fasting? I've heard that can be a real game changer for cell health.
You heard right. When you combine those two, exercise and intermittent fasting, it can kickstart this process called autophagy, which is basically a cellular recycling system. It gets rid of those damaged proteins and mitochondria and makes space for new, healthy ones.
A spring cleaning for our cells.
Exactly. And that can really ramp up energy production and cell rejuvenation. There are other things that can affect mitochondrial health and your energy too, like cold therapy.
Cold therapy, like taking cold showers.
Yep, exactly. Cold showers, cold plunges, things like that. They can be really good for how your mitochondria function.
That's one I might need to work up to. What about other things that can help or hurt our mitochondria?
Well, some phytonutrients, they're found in cruciferous vegetables, like broccoli and those radish microgreens. They've been shown to help repair and improve how well mitochondria work. On the flip side, those refined foods, sugar, constant stress, exposure to heavy metals, smoking, drinking too much alcohol, they can all be bad news for your mitochondrial health.
So basically, it's all about making choices that support our body's natural energy production, whether it's through diet, exercise, or just how we live our lives.
That's a great way to put it. The more we understand how our lifestyle choices affect our cells and how much energy we have, the better we can take care of ourselves. Now, one of the really remarkable things about these mitochondria, is that they have their own DNA, like completely separate from the DNA and the nucleus of our cells.
Wait, really? These little energy factories have their own separate set of genetic instructions. That's wild. But why? Why is that so important?
Well, you see, scientists think that way back when, billions of years ago, mitochondria were actually these free-living bacteria, and they were, engulfed by our ancient ancestor cells.
So instead of being digested, they ended up becoming part of the cell itself, like a team.
Exactly. And over time, these bacteria evolved, and became the mitochondria we know today, but they kept their own DNA, kind of like a souvenir of their independent past. And this mitochondrial DNA, we call it mtDNA for short, it plays a huge role in how mitochondria function, and that directly affects how much energy we have.
So if that mtDNA gets damaged, could that mess up our energy production?
It could. In fact, more and more research is showing that mtDNA damage is linked to a whole bunch of health problems like fatigue, neurodegenerative diseases, even aging.
Wow, that makes you think. So is there anything we can do to protect our mtDNA?
Absolutely. There are tons of things we can do to keep our mitochondria healthy and protect that mtDNA. One big one is eating a diet packed with antioxidants. They help neutralize those free radicals that can damage DNA.
So all those colorful fruits and vegetables, they're not just good for our bodies in general, they're also protecting the DNA in our energy factories.
Exactly. And along with a healthy diet, regular exercise, managing stress, and avoiding toxins, all that can help keep our mtDNA in tip-top shape.
It's amazing how these tiny things inside our cells can have such a massive impact on our health and how we feel.
It really highlights how interconnected everything is in our bodies, doesn't it? It shows us how important it is to take care of ourselves as a whole.
Absolutely. Now, you mentioned earlier that mitochondria can actually communicate with each other. That sounds fascinating.
It's true, they're not just these isolated little powerhouses working alone in our cells. They form these networks, and communicate through different signaling pathways.
So it's like they have their own little community inside our cells, all working together to keep us energized.
Exactly. And that communication, it's vital for coordinating energy production, responding to stress, even regulating when cells die.
It's mind-blowing how much is going on in those tiny structures.
Truly remarkable. And we're still learning so much about them, how they work and what role they play in health and disease. You were talking about aging earlier, how mitochondria might be involved in that process.
Right. Well, there's this theory called the free radical theory of aging that says the damage to our cells and tissues over time, caused by these things called free radicals, is what leads to aging.
And mitochondria, they're kind of vulnerable to that damage because, well, they produce free radicals as a byproduct of energy production.
So over time, our mtDNA gets damaged, energy production slows down, and that triggers all these age-related changes.
That's the idea. And it highlights why taking care of our mitochondria throughout our lives is so crucial.
It's not just about feeling more energetic today, it's about protecting our cells and promoting long-term health.
Absolutely. By making those lifestyle choices that support mitochondrial function, we might be able to slow down the aging process and lower our risk of those age-related diseases.
So a healthy diet, exercise, managing stress, it's all an investment in our future health, not just a quick fix for feeling tired.
Exactly. It's about taking a proactive approach to health, recognizing that the choices we make every day have a huge impact on ourselves and how long and how well we live.
This whole discussion about mitochondria has been really eye-opening. It feels like we've just scratched the surface, though.
It's a vast and complex world, that's for sure. And there's still so much we're discovering about how they influence our health.
Now, I'd love to talk about something that I find particularly intriguing, the link between mitochondrial health and mental well-being.
Absolutely. It's an area that's getting a lot of attention these days. Research is starting to show that problems with mitochondrial function could actually play a big role in things like depression, anxiety, even bipolar disorder.
Wow, you're telling me our mental state could be affected by those tiny energy factories in our cells?
Think about it. Our brain needs a ton of energy to function properly. And if those mitochondria aren't working at their best and can't produce enough energy, it can throw off all sorts of brain processes, things like neurotransmitter production and signaling.
So, if our brain isn't getting the fuel it needs, it can lead to imbalances that show up as mental health symptoms.
Exactly. And that just goes to show how important those lifestyle factors we talked about, diet, exercise, stress management, are for our mental health too.
It's fascinating how everything is connected. We tend to think of mental and physical health as separate things, but they're so intertwined.
You said it. We can't truly address one without considering the other.
It all comes back to understanding those mitochondria and doing what we can to help them thrive.
That's right. Prioritizing mitochondrial health isn't just about having more energy. It's about mental clarity, emotional resilience, and overall well-being.
You know, it really is incredible when you think about it, these microscopic things having such a massive impact on our overall well-being.
It really does highlight that everything in our bodies is connected and that we need to think about health holistically. And like we've been talking about, it's not just about feeling more energetic. Optimizing mitochondrial function that affects our mental sharpness, our emotional resilience, just everything.
This deep dive into the world of mitochondria, it's been, well, eye-opening to say the least. But I have a feeling we've only just begun to explore this topic.
I think that's true. The world of mitochondria, it's incredibly complex, and there's still so much we're learning about how they impact, well, everything about our health.
If anyone out there wants to learn more about these fascinating mitochondria and, well, just about all things health and wellness, be sure to subscribe to our channel, Health Facts. That's Health Facts